Hi, this is Don Farber with VineyardSoft Corporation, and I'd like to welcome you to this training session on the KnowledgeSync solution. The topic for this session will be the creation of alert dashboards, and in fact, this is the third of 3 training sessions on dashboard creation, and so we strongly recommend that you first have viewed the preceding 2 sessions on dashboard design before proceeding with the current session. Now in this session, we're specifically going to address the configuration of the dashboard alert itself, that is, what information appears within each dashboard that KnowledgeSync creates. What you'll learn is that within each dashboard, there are really only 2 aspects of information that you'll need to specify. The first are the column headings that are going to appear within the dashboard being created. In the case of this dashboard, our column headings are such things as customer name, customer ID, invoice number, invoice amount, and credit limit. The second aspect of information that you'll need to specify within each dashboard are the database field names that contain the values you wish to appear beneath each column heading. And so, once again in this dashboard, we'll need to specify the database field name that contains the customer name. We'll need to specify the database field name that contains the customer's ID, their invoice number, etc. Now for the design of alert dashboards, VineyardSoft provides you with a template that you can use when designing dashboards. And so, before we jump into the KnowledgeSync application, let's take a look at that template. The template itself is contained within the Dashboard Setup Kit, which is a free download from the VineyardSoft website. In the Dashboard Setup Kit, you'll notice a file called webcast_tab_template. And this file contains the default syntax and format for your alert dashboards. So let's open up and take a look at this file. Now, although this file contains HTML syntax, you do not have to be familiar with HTML in order to configure KnowledgeSync dashboard events. Now, the very top of this template contains a lot of default HTML syntax that controls the overall design, font, point size, etc. of the dashboard that's created. You can change this if you're familiar with HTML syntax, or you may simply leave it with its defaults. The 2 areas of information that you'll need to fill out when using this template within a KnowledgeSync dashboard event are contained at the very bottom of this file. The first section is referred to as the column header section. And that's where you'll be able to specify the column headings that appear within the dashboard that you wish to create. As you can see here, we have pre-configured default text that reads column header 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. A KnowledgeSync dashboard is not limited to just 5 columns. It can contain either fewer or additional columns. The second and final bit of information that you'll need to specify for a dashboard alert are the database field names that correspond to those column headers. And as you can see in this template, those database field names by default are called data field 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So let's now exit from this template and let's go into a KnowledgeSync event. So let's take a look at the dashboard event that creates a single dashboard showing a list of all clients who are at least 90 days overdue in their payment. Now this event, like any other event, contains a query which identifies the underlying business condition that KnowledgeSync is going to look for, as well as retrieving those fields of data that we're going to put into our dashboard alert. Now this particular event contains no reports or files, but it could. You can have KnowledgeSync create an alert dashboard and within that dashboard also contain URL links to associated reports or files. In this event, we've chosen to leave the other alert delivery methods, email, fax, page, instant message, etc. blank, as we think it's wisest to create individual events that do nothing other than create alert dashboards. Now let's move on to that webcast tab, as that's where we control the format, the appearance of the dashboard that KnowledgeSync will create for this particular event. Up at the top of our webcast tab is a list of all the fields of information. These are drawn from the query associated with this event. and we can put these fields into the dashboard that KnowledgeSync is creating. The subject of the dashboard can be anything you like. It can be any combination of hard-coded text and field variables. In our case, we're simply using the name of the event, clients 90 days overdue, all. Now you might recognize some of the initial HTML syntax in our webcaster message. This has been cut and pasted directly from that file called webcast tab template, which came with the KnowledgeSync dashboard setup kit. And as I mentioned, unless you want to change some of the default formatting controls for this dashboard, I strongly recommend that you scroll down to the very end of this file where you get to where you can specify the column heading names as well as the database field names that are going to be used within your dashboard. Here, what you can see are my column headings. So I have replaced the default text that reads column heading 1, column heading 2, etc. with names such as customer no for customer number, name, current balance, over 30, 60, 90, etc. Once again, these are my column headings for the dashboard that's going to be created. Those column headings, and you can see in my case I've got more like 7, 8, or 9 columns as opposed to the 5 that come with the template. After those headings is the section of my webcaster message that contains the actual field names that are going to appear beneath each of those column headings. And so, from the list up at the top of my webcast tab, I've chosen fields like customer number, customer name, current balance, etc. You'll notice that these field names do correspond directly to the list of available values for use in message content. I have done a little bit of special formatting here. For my numeric or currency fields, such as current balance, I'm having KnowledgeSync control the length of this field, a maximum of 12 digits, and the $ symbol tells KnowledgeSync to format this value as currency as defined by the regional settings of the server on which KnowledgeSync is installed. So those are the only two aspects that I need to fill out to create a dashboard. Again, the column headings and then the database field names that are going to have their values filled in. Down at the bottom of the webcast tab, there are a few additional options I'd like to touch upon. The first is a field called expiration days, and you'll notice in my case it is set to -1. We do recommend that all dashboards be set to an expiration days of -1, as that tells KnowledgeSync every time the dashboard is refreshed, and that's controlled by the schedule that's associated with the dashboard event. The -1 tells KnowledgeSync to completely refresh the entire contents of the dashboard and show only those records that currently meet the dashboard's criteria. There are few times where you want the dashboard to continue to show you information from a historic perspective, even though some of that information may no longer meet the event's criteria. As I said, that's a fairly seldom configuration option. We recommend that you use -1. You can also color code a dashboard to indicate whether the information in it is good news, bad news, or just informational. And finally, there are 3 checkboxes down at the bottom of the webcast tab. And those have to do with whether this event has any associated reports and/or files. Because if it does, those reports and files can appear as URL links within the dashboard that KnowledgeSync creates. Now there's one last aspect to configuring a dashboard event. Here we've specified what we want our dashboard to look like, but we have not specified where we want that dashboard to be created or what we want it to be called. And that's where we work with the subscribers. Now, unlike an event that sends an alert message or a fax message or even a pager message in KnowledgeSync, you are typically not hard coding the recipient of a dashboard. You're not specifying that it's going to go to a user named Smith or Jones or Johnson or Harrington. Instead, you are utilizing a field that was created in this dashboard's query referred to as the dashboard address field. And please refer to the preceding training session on dashboard creation as it specifically addresses the unique configuration of KnowledgeSync queries for use in dashboards. Because in those queries, typically there is a field created called dashboard address. That is the field that contains both the location and the name of the dashboard file, the HTML file that KnowledgeSync is going to create. And assuming that you do wish to use that location and name for this dashboard, you come to the Subscribers tab, go to the Advanced sub-tab within Subscribers, drop down to the last field in the lower of the two grids, and you'll see a field whose description reads, contains webcasting name for web delivery. In plain English, that's asking you what field within this event's query contains the name and location of the dashboard that's going to be created. And as I mentioned earlier, typically dashboard queries are created with a field called dashboard address. And that's all that we need to do to configure this dashboard event. We can save and close this window. Couple last notes before we exit from this session. In the preceding session, we talked about how there are typically two types of dashboards, dashboard events, that is. There are dashboard events whose result is a single dashboard, such as the event we were just in, which creates a single dashboard that shows all clients who are at least 90 days overdue. And then there are dynamic dashboards, such as this event. This is a single event that's going to dynamically create multiple dashboards. One dashboard for each of my sales reps. So each sales rep has a dashboard that shows just their clients who are at least 90 days overdue. Now this event is configured almost exactly like the preceding event. That is, you still reference the query that's associated with this event. You still go to the Webcast tab and specify the format of the dashboard that's going to be created. And as you can see here, it is in fact identical. The created dashboard is identical to the dashboard that we were creating in the preceding event. Where this event differs only slightly is that the dashboard address field that this event uses is referring to the dashboard address value from a query that is enabled to create multiple dashboards. Again, the ability to create multiple dashboards is actually controlled on the query level, not on the event level. So this particular event looks identical to the preceding event. The difference is that this event is utilizing a query that has been designed to create multiple dynamic dashboards. And so when we go to our Subscribers Advanced tab and once again reference that dashboard address field, in this particular case, that dashboard address has been configured in the underlying query to enable the creation of multiple dashboards, one for, in this case, each sales rep who has overdue clients. Okay, so let's cancel out of this event as well. And there's one last item that we need to mention before we wrap up this training session. Once you have created your dashboard events, such as I have them here, you do also need to make sure that in KnowledgeSync, the server process that creates dashboards has been enabled to run. And so you might notice that I've just brought up the KnowledgeSync Administrator module, and specifically, I'm going to the Server Status branch up at the very top of the Administrator, because I want to take a look at not only the status of all of KnowledgeSync's individual servers that perform different functions, but very specifically, I want to look at the status of the Webcaster server. This is the server process that creates dashboards. Now, by default, out of the box, this server is shipped as disabled. You'll notice that this checkbox titled Allow Server to Process does not have a check mark in it. And so, if you do want to enable KnowledgeSync to create dashboards, you do need to come into the administrator, into this option for the Webcaster server, put a check mark in the box called Allow Server to Process, save and close this record, and then restart the KnowledgeSync Windows service, at which point KnowledgeSync will now be enabled to create an unlimited number of dashboards for your entire staff. So that wraps up this third and final training session on dashboard design. I'd like to thank you very much for your time today. and I look forward to speaking with you in a future KnowledgeSync training session. Thanks very much.